I started just now. Do the intro last. No, I didn't do that. I just saw it just now. All right. So, what do you want to start with first?
But man, I cannot believe MV scored Kerrigan. Like, how much fucking money did they pay that guy to do that? That's insane.
Well, he wasn't going with anyone, was he?
Dude, he's playing the minor with like MV, which is like JDM and Drone and all those guys. Like, don't get me wrong, like I'm friends with JDM, so like I'm pumped for him. That's sweet. That's crazy. Like he's literally on like one of the best teams in the world, and then he goes to MV, which is like pretty questionable right now since they're kind of rebuilding. So
Well, I mean, he's pretty much benched, and he probably has an insane buyout right now. So, I mean, what else can he really do?
Yeah. If anything, they probably were just like, "Hey, can we borrow him for this minor? We'll pay his monthly salary or something like that, so you won't have to worry." They're like, "Yeah, okay, fine, that's great."
Yeah, because isn't it just temporary, basically?
Yeah.
yeah, it's a loan. So like it was weird the way it read was that he's gonna play the minor, and I don't think he's playing the major though, but that's been kind of speculated a lot right now.
Well, I
So
mean, if their team makes it to the major, right? Like, are the rules different now? Where even if you compete in the minor, you can still compete in the major after, or is it locked? So I thought that was how it worked before.
mm, yeah, you might be right actually.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on the exact details, but I do remember there was a change about it. Because I remember when it was brought up, like people were bringing up how Bolts and Steel last year, like the Brazilian one, they're talking about how they tried to qualify with whatever team they had before, and then because they couldn't, um, like basically Bolts and Steel weren't able to find a team to play for during the major. But that was a while ago. It might have been a year ago at this point.
Hmm. Sucks. Um.
That's
Yeah,
nuts.
like what other team would he fit in? Also, that's the other thing. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I mean, you're looking at okay. So you look at the. I'm looking at the like MV right now is ranked number 42 on HLTV, but I mean, really, yeah, you made a good point. Like, if there's a team list, I'm just pulling it up right now. He's not going to Astralis, obviously. Navi, no, that doesn't make any sense either. The only way I would have saw Navi is like if Zeus was going to sit out, but he already said he's going to quit in 2019, so I figure he's probably just going to play as much as he can.
Who's
Liquid,
quitting? Sorry, say that again.
Zeus from
Oh, right,
Navi.
right, right. He's gonna go back just a coach, I guess.
He didn't. I don't think he really
Yeah,
said
he
he
didn't
just
really say anything. He just said,
said him.
yeah, that's his last year basically, whatever that means.
Probably from playing.
I mean, he's
But I
been
mean,
playing for a long time, right? So
oh, fair enough. Yeah, and I mean, I think it's just starting to show like he just doesn't have that firepower to like be supportive, right? Like he's a super good. Well, I shouldn't even say that. Like he has a lot of hype around him for being a really good IGL, but I mean, I think he'd be a good coach. I don't know if that would be something he want to do though, but anyways, yeah. So like he's not gonna go with Liquid. He's not gonna go with MIBR. He's not going to go with Mouse Sports. Like, yeah, so I mean, you're already looking at the top 10 teams and like what team would he go to? That doesn't even make sense. So
What
I
about
get it, but
Cloud9?
well, that's I was just going to say that. Like, Cloud9 right now is ranked 14th, and I mean, I thought they for sure would have picked him up as a loan, but I bet you, like, they picked up that Zelsis guy.
Celsius,
Yeah.
yeah.
which is crazy. Like, cool, good for him. Like, that's awesome. I don't know anything about him, but like, I know he's on Swole Patrol and stuff. But that's crazy that like that kind of a roster didn't pick up him even on a loan. Like, they're good for trialing people out. I don't know what happened. Like, I have no idea. Do you guys know anything?
I don't know. I think if it's anything like when Stewie got picked up, I wouldn't be surprised if Cloud9 is just kind of like they want to take a chance on somebody. Maybe it'll work out again, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to paying a bunch of money or dealing with other orgs and stuff like that in terms of like trying to get a player on loan or trying to buy somebody out. Like they're probably just going the route of we're gonna try to take another chance on a new talent where it doesn't cost that much money and just see what ends up happening.
Yeah, we can blame it on like, oh, we had a new roster. The other thing too is I think they want something permanent. So they'd rather try someone out that is going to stick around than have someone temporarily and then they leave and then it's like, oh, why didn't you try to keep them? Kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's a bad pickup. I mean, Zelsis has been a pretty good player so far. Like he's definitely improved a lot over the time that he's played CS competitively. Like I knew of him when he played in IM like maybe a couple years ago at this point. So I don't know. I think it's a decent move. And like with how difficult it is to get other players now, I don't blame Cloud9 at all for kind of taking this chance.
Yeah, they're in a weird spot too. Like, I mean, they're doing a ton of rebuilding right now, and I guess like yeah, it's kind of good to take an opportunity for something like that because his buyout, if he even had one, was probably super low.
Yeah.
So they didn't. So they were like, well, let's just try it. And he's on a trial basis, right? So it could have even been like a loan, not even a permanent buyout. So
Yeah, I mean, he played for Swole Patrol, so it's not like they were really even tied to an org or anything like that. So they shouldn't have had any issues just picking him up. And from his standpoint, like, why would you say no to playing for Cloud9 when you get to play with so many like legendary players, basically?
Yeah. Yeah.
well, I totally mixed him with Cooper. That's why I was thinking the buyout from like, United. Oops, I was gonna say yeah, Soul Patrol. There's no buyout, so yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think a big thing is though is like the thing is like I don't think motivation is necessarily a problem for Cloud9 right now though. I mean, look at all the players they have. It's like Flusha, Kyo, Automatic, and Rush, right? Like I feel like a lot, like pretty much all those players, like they feel like they have something to prove, right? Because basically after Tarek and Stewie left, it's just like Automatic and Rush just left to pick up the pieces, and then Flusha left Fnatic after he played on Fnatic for like 4 years basically, and then Kyo's has never really found a proper team since like Phase, and that was like almost 2 years ago at this point.
I feel bad for Keo. I think he's a sweet player, and he's done some pretty cool stuff in the game, and he just like never found that home, and he always seems to be the first one that gets like cut right away, which is I don't know, maybe he just wasn't a good fit like with people. I don't know, but the
Well,
guy's won like two majors, and he's been on like top 20 teams in the world, and seems like he's a pretty consistent player. So it seemed kind of odd, but
well, it could be, Mahone. I think you were the one talking about having teammates that play like together, like pug
Yeah,
together, aim map together, like that kind of thing. And you could get a situation where he isn't like that, and he's kind of doing his own thing, and he's off, like okay, I'm here for practice. Okay, I'm gone. Bye.
yeah,
So that could be the factor, right? Or like attitude in practice, like how much he doesn't care or whatever.
yeah. So actually, that's gonna bring me to my next question. Maybe this is just gonna be the topic for today. I was thinking about this earlier, but basically, like with what you just said there, what do you guys think makes a good teammate? Basically, like what kind of things, like in your past experience with your previous teams, who's somebody who's been a good teammate, and why were they a good teammate exactly? So like accounting for everything, so not just like their skill or what they did in game, but also like out of game as well.
Persian, you want to go first or me?
Ye- Yeah, okay, you go first. You go.
Okay, we're name dropping. I'm guessing too.
if you want to. I mean, it's not like there's any shade here. We're just
It's
saying
not like
good
I don't even
teammates
think he's gonna
here.
even. I don't think he's ever gonna watch, but um, I would say so. My old teammate Tux was probably one of my favorite teammates. He was our IGL for our open teams and our IM teams. And you guys both know who he is, but he was kind of the kind of guy that would literally went through everything like nade work, and he gave constructive criticism, and like if you talk to him one on one, like he would have a conversation about stuff that you like, you don't like. He was really open minded, and to me that was huge. He was kind of like that first like real IGL that I had, and he would always like show me new things, and we would play, and just felt like I was learning so much, and I don't know, it just was a good feeling. And like even outside the game too, like he's not the most outgoing guy in the world, but he was always nice, and he could always have a conversation, and him and I got along pretty quickly, so it was just kind of instant connection, to be honest. So he was probably one of my favorite teammates, to be honest. But I have quite a few, but he's definitely on the top three for sure.
Are we naming like one teammate or like
You can
qualities?
name you
Okay.
can name
Yeah, do
whoever you
whatever you
want. You
want,
do
right?
whatever you
I
want.
can do
Yeah.
whatever. So Tux, you already described Tux. Tux was in my brain as far as a teammate um, that you'd want. The only problem. Um, okay, so I had a teammate. I mentioned them last week, Kato. Um, very good. Okay, kind of interesting because he was similar to Tux, but he actually in game wouldn't. He just had a different attitude in game. He had a much more like laid back, patient attitude, which I think is a little different than Tux. Whereas Tux was quiet, but it was like I don't know, it was different. But I actually think I was a pretty. If you want to win, I want an aggressive um, uh, teammate. Like I think there should be four compliant teammates and one leader. So I guess it depends. So if you're like usually the in-game leader is the guy that's like runs the team. That guy I think needs to be somewhat of an authority and kind of like lay down the law and like keep people accountable. Like if you fuck up, you need to be accountable of like like whatever you do, and that in-game leader needs to kind of establish that. But the other four just need to be compliant and like do what needs to be done and like just play good or whatever. But I think it's like you have to fit the role, the appropriate role, and also playing. I think if you play multiple games together and you pug together, I think it helps a lot with the chemistry. Like there needs to be that outside of the game chemistry that goes with it.
Mhm.
What about you, Danny?
Um, I would say I gotta think. I gotta think about this. I've had a
I
lot
know
of
it's a
really good
hard
teammates.
one,
Yeah, it's
right?
hard.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's the teammate of like, oh, he's like the one that like takes charge, like Tux, right?
Yeah.
My only thing with Tux is if we were actually like, because we all knew each other, so to be honest, I felt like we were a bit soft on those teams with Tux. Yeah, Tux would get upset and be like, a classic Tux sigh or whatever. But but I think if you want to like push for a win, and mind you, he's taking into consideration while I'm playing with like these friends of mine, and we're not taking it that seriously or whatever. But I think it's very important that if you want to go for like a push to win, you need to be like not nice, and you need to be like figure it out and like keep people accountable. So the one time I'll say that Tux wasn't like that was when we weren't playing with the regular boys, like the local guys. It was when we were playing with I think it was like Mangster Viet and Lights Out and with and Van too. Van, but he had to leave abruptly. But so that core it was more aggressive. People were like trying to like work together, aim map together, and like progress as a team.
When you say
And then
aggressive here, though, do you mean aggressive in game, or do you mean more aggressive in like in the way that they're trying to actively get better? Like, what do you mean by that?
aggressive in like if like um
treat practice the way it should be treated. It's practice. It's not, oh, let's win a scrim. So
Mhm.
if it, don't try to just win a scrim, try to work on stuff and try to like figure out different techniques. So like for example, one thing is it's funny because I think Tux understood what was going on, but like Viet and Mangster were like, "Why are you losing?" Like for example, I remember Inferno B or something like that. Um, he was like, "Why are you guys losing B all the time? Why are you guys losing B all the time?" And then I just like was like, what do you expect? Like it's a scrim. We're trying to do different things. Like I'm not here to counter strat them. This isn't the match. This is for like trying to get better and figure out little things and see like what works and what their reaction to certain things are.
Yep.
And so I think a leader that like, and then so on T side, like CT side, it's whatever, but then on T side, being aggressive and trying to like teach people how to properly do something and get the timing down. I think, and again, it has to do with like I think nowadays you have to be a little more soft with people. But I think if there's young people that are more prone to just like a very authoritative figure to like basically like beat into them what they should be doing, you'll get a lot better quicker. Like whatever happened to that Uber kid that was always like so arrogant, and then he just like kind of disappeared because he thought he was like better than everyone. What team is he on?
I don't know where he is right now. Actually.
Exactly. You see what I mean? Like that's the problem. Is like people get good quick and then they get arrogant, and they're like, "Oh well, I'm sick. Like I can do whatever I want." And then, and you know, for a while I thought it was like the upper echelon of CS players was a little bit of like a exclusive club where they just wanted to invite people they liked. But it made sense looking back as to them doing that is because they knew, well, we don't want to invite like a drama queen onto the team. Like, not to say anything about Stewie, but Stu shows up, and then suddenly he's like, you know, this cut these guys. These guys aren't going to make it. Oh, okay, great. Now I'm going to leave the team, and just kind of like throws everything all over the place because he's young and he's just like there's not someone like above him with more experience that's like keeping him in his place. He just kind of gets to do whatever he wants.
Hmm. No, that's true. But I would say though that it depends a lot on like the makeup of the team. I guess you can say. Like it definitely does matter a lot. Like, because like I'll say this, like in terms of some of the teammates that I've had, like there's definitely I've had good teammates in their respective roles, right? So it's like in terms of like IGLs and stuff like that, there's certain things that I really like about certain people that I've played with, right? And and that's not necessarily to say that's a goal. Like, you know, this teammate is better than the other. It's just more like you said, it's depending on what their role was in the team, right? So it's like I'd only compare, you know, IGLs to IGLs, and you know, say oppers to oppers, and like support players to support players, right? But basically, to me, it's like what a good teammate was if they were an in-game leader would be somebody who understands that basically mistakes are gonna be made. You have to work on it, obviously, right? And they're always willing to kind of like try new things and to try to do things to improve, you know, the team as a whole. I never really agreed with, you know, IGLs that wanted to just kind of run the same thing over and over and over. Like, you already know it works. Like, why do you need to keep doing it so much? Like, you should be doing things that you don't know work yet to basically refine, you know, refine your playbook essentially. So that was one thing that I like about IGLs, is that people who aren't afraid to kind of um, stretch things out and try new things. In terms of like oppers and stuff like that, I always liked oppers who could call their picks and stuff like that, and like would kind of describe what they're gonna do in a round, because it makes it a lot easier for you as an in-game leader and as, you know, a support player, or just a rifler, or anything, to kind of know like what your opper is gonna be doing for you. Like, is he gonna be holding this angle for you? Is he gonna try to go for this pick or something like that? Like, oppers who don't communicate any of that kind of stuff are a little bit difficult to play with, because you don't know like what they're gonna do. You don't know if they're planning on being aggressive. You don't know if they're planning on just holding an angle for you. Like, it's very hard to work around that. And like I guess also for just anybody who is a rifler, like, you know, entry person, second in, support player, I found that communication was probably the most important thing for any player that's like in that kind of spot, where it's like you need to, if you're usually the person that's throwing nades for your team, you should call out what nades you're throwing and stuff like that, and like the timing of it to help your players better gauge when things are going out, like when you can peak and stuff like that. And then if you're like someone who entries, you should be the kind of teammate who communicates like, okay, I'm gonna, you work together with your team, you communicate with your teammate, tell them it's like, hey, stay close to me, it's like make sure you trade off me, I'm gonna clear this on the right, can you get my left. It's like all those small things are like the kind of things that I look for in a teammate, and like that's what I consider a good teammate. Even if there was somebody who was like a nuts aimer but didn't communicate, like it's difficult to play with somebody like that because they're like a loose cannon. You don't even know what they're gonna do basically. So I mean, I think that's just like a rundown to me, like basically what I would look for in a teammate, or like good things or good traits that I would say good teammates have.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's yeah. I think you made a lot of good points. Like I think, like I know like communication's a huge one in that game and stuff like that. And I mean, for me, like I always liked having somebody that I can get along with in and out of the game too. And I mean, obviously, it's skill and teamwork is a really big thing during the game. But like if I was going to be playing with this person on a consistent basis, I kind of wanted to make sure that I could get along with them too, right? Like I mean, I played with people that I didn't really see eye to eye with, and it made it way harder too, right?
Why was that exactly though? Was it really actually because of their personality outside of the game, or was it something they did in the game?
Well, that's the problem. Like I've played with people where it was like personality, but then that's also people that I was just like in game directly. It was just different mindset, different view on things, and it just didn't. I just didn't feel like I valued it or I appreciated or thought the same way. So it was really hard to think that way. Like I mean, you try to be open minded, but you also try to express your opinion if you don't agree. But and I don't know. I've had both situations, and I mean, I think the in-game one obviously is worse because if you don't trust who you're playing with or you don't feel comfortable, like you're not going to last,
Yeah.
and it's going to be pretty hard to sell that, right? Whereas like if you're out hanging outside the game, like for our level, I mean, we were just playing like amateurship, so it's like we see each other maybe like a couple times a year. But I mean, for me, it was more of a big thing for me too because I wanted to make sure I could actually like hang out and get along too. But yeah, it's kind of what everybody's got a different opinion on it. But I think you make good points, like communication, teamwork, and being able to like actually work together was like obviously the best thing you could have. So
Yeah. Because the thing is, I kind of, to me, I mean, I guess my past history may not suggest this necessarily, but like to me, it is actually more important to me that I could like if I was building a team, that I have a group of players that I could actually work well with. I don't necessarily care as much about the outside of game stuff, like because the thing is like I think I've had many instances where it's just like somebody's great to hang out with outside of the game and stuff like that, or they're like they're chill to talk to and stuff like that, but then like in the game like you just don't want to play with them basically. And that's what we're here for basically when we're competing like this, whether it's going to a LAN or playing in ESCA. 80% of your time is spent actually playing the game, right? So even if there is that 20% of the time where somebody or many people might be chill, but they're like so different in the game, or they do a lot of things that you don't agree with, it's just I just value being able to play with the people more than being able to get along with them necessarily.
Yeah, I guess maybe okay. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I guess I just was under the assumption of like them just I think those are all good qualities of like just a good player. That's what your communication and stuff. Like I think that's like pretty like straightforward as far as they need. But you don't feel like the need to like spend time with people like out of the game and stuff?
Not. I don't place as much of a value on it. Like the way I see it is, I just need to be. I only care mostly about being able to get along like while we're playing the game. I don't necessarily care as much about being able to get along outside of the game because yeah, like I said, I've already had many instances where I get along fine with certain people outside of the game, but playing with them on a team is just like I don't want to continue to do that type of thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's interesting. Sounds like everybody's like a little different in their own way, to
Yeah,
be honest.
which is interesting to hear about actually.
Yeah, like I mean, I think Persian made a good point too. Like all the things that Danny you said, they're like the best qualities of a player. But then I guess I think it depends on like your motivation and what your goals are in playing. Like I
Yeah, that's
think
true.
that's
That's
different
definitely
too.
true. Yeah,
I think your goals are totally different than mine, and I mean I was pretty like when I played 1.6, like I wanted to win, but I also wanted to play with like people that I knew, and I wanted like I had a weird like criteria things I wanted, and I was kind of particular. But I mean, I made it happen for what I wanted.
yeah,
But I don't think it would work now. But yeah, it's tough. Like I think you were the kind of player that you wanted to play to win, and you would play with good people and change it up if you had to. Whereas I was a little different in the sense where like I wanted more friends and like a relationship long term with these people and stuff like that, and kind of building a foundation that way. And I'm not saying you're not. It's just I think it was more personable rather than just winning, if that makes sense.
yeah. Well, that's why I actually said that like my past history doesn't really suggest what I said because at the same time I did only really play with people who are in the local area. Like at most for a team, I would only have maybe like one person who wasn't in like the BC Seattle area. So that's why it's just like the things that I said kind of contradict what is important to me. So yeah, I think in some point for me though it's just like I think I had to. I think part of it was also just like they. I guess I didn't point this out earlier, but they had to be somebody that like where there was like a mutual respect too. Like I think that was above everything basically, because like there could be somebody who fulfills that thing that I like all those qualities I just said, right? But if there isn't that mutual respect between me and them, like that also doesn't make it necessarily that enjoyable to play with them either. But I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think we talked a lot about like teammates and stuff, and I think it's kind of one of those like everybody's a little bit different, but I think you really pointed out some really good qualities that you should look for in players. Um, and then I think Persian made a couple good comments about like his view on it as well. So it just really depends on what your team's view is, right? Like I mean,
Yeah.
I played with people that their goal was to win. Like they only wanted to play to be the best. And I mean, some of them did quite well. So it's awesome. Like JDM was the biggest example of that. Like JDM and our team, he's one of the guys. He's like the coolest dude. We all got along with him when we went out to lands and stuff. We'd hang out. It was great. But we knew he was going to be more than what we were,
Yeah.
and so we didn't want to hold him back as well, right? And like he was such a good teammate in so many ways, but yeah, he just had a totally different view than we did. But he had fun during that time, but he also took advantage of what he could, which we wanted him to. So yeah, but
That's a tough thing about building teams though, because sometimes you know you actually need different personalities or different um like you actually need people to be kind of different for a team to work well because you can't have five of the same person if that makes sense. Like if you imagine a team with five IGLs, like there's no way that would work. There's just too many cooks in the kitchen.
yeah, no, I agree, totally agree.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what? Now that I remember back, I was when I wanted to win, Danny. I think I was more in your boat. Like there was a little bit of like, oh hey, you're my friend, I want to play with you, but I do think I was pretty like ruthless as far as like, yeah, no, like you're not doing good enough, dude. Like you need to do better, or we need to find like a change. Yeah, which is not good. it's like not always the best thing that you want to go for. But
I
yeah,
think that's a good point because I think like for people that don't know, like there's a quite a bit of an age difference between me and Persian compared to Danny. So I mean, when I was playing like really competitive, like I was like a teenager, like most people, I guess. But like I mean, I had that mindset too, where I wanted to win, 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 and like even the people I played with, we tried everything to make them be successful as much as we could. But there was a point where I do actually remember now with another teammate that I really liked, and his name was Will, and he just kind of helped us build like way more of a foundation and taught us like so many new things as like a team as a whole. And he like grinded and watched demos and was super personable and all around good player, really nice guy. He was motivated like for what we wanted to accomplish and stuff. And but back then, like we made roster changes because like him and I would have conversations about people that were doing poorly, but we gave them so many opportunities and had conversations about it, stuff like that. And like I was at a bit of a different mindset back then, and then I got a little bit older, and then I started kind of changing my mindset and thinking like, well, I'd rather have more relationships and stuff out of it and have fun playing and try to get it somewhat of a decent level rather than just playing to be as high as I can go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was about to bring that age difference up too, just because like I mean we're all basically inactive in the game right now, but um, yeah, I was about to point that age thing out as well, where I can imagine myself if I was maybe 3 years older, if I was like 27 right now, then yeah, I would place more value if I was to build a team when I'm 27 to basically only play, or I'd have a higher value on playing with people that I was friends with and stuff like that, right? Like I'd want to play with people that I can get along with the most. So yeah, I think it definitely is like a age thing. It's kind of a I guess your values just kind of change over time as you kind of go through the game, just because you know you're getting older, the game's getting older, and that's just how things are.
Yeah, I agree.
why are we so far?
What?
We're so far from your mic.
Oh, sorry.
But
How intense
go
and
ahead.
intimate is this conversation with our ex teammates right now? I feel like we're really pulling our hearts.
Well, I mean, I think it's a big thing because I don't think there's enough focus on kind of learning what it takes to build a team today. I feel like a lot of the people today, when they build teams, they're just like, I just want the guy who has the highest stats, but they don't think about all these other things that we brought up.
Yeah. Well, I think right now it's I have a feeling anyways that people you're going to see this like new age of like chemistry come up. And I think like the pro teams have kind of figured it out a little bit. Like I guess we'll find out with like Brazil, but we'll figure out what's going on there and see if it'll work. I think overall that might be the mindset going into it. Like they might showcase like, hey, teammates over like you just trying to like wing it and make this sick team with a bunch of people because that's what they tried to do. They tried just adding, just add Tarek and Stewie. We'll have so much firepower. What's anyone gonna do? And then they failed. Kind of, they failed. Like
They didn't live up to their expectations, basically.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you have all these sick players. Okay, well, where's the championships?
Yeah. No, I think that's true. I think we will eventually get back to that soon, just because like there's so many examples in the pro scene of, because a lot of people were talking about Taco being really bad when he was still on SK at the time, and then he joined Liquid, made them from basically a top, basically a top 10 team to like a top 2 team. I mean, that's not a coincidence, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah. I mean, yeah, you could kind of say the same thing happened with FaZe. I mean, they got rid of Kiyoshima. They were like, oh, look at the firepower, get the all stars, and then now they're not doing as well.
Well, to be fair, if you're talking about that roster exchange, they did do pretty well for a stretch. I think the better example you should point out would probably be when Kerrigan first joined FaZe, because if you remember that old lineup, it's like, they're supposed to have a lot of talent, but like Kerrigan was the reason why he transformed them to like a top 15 team at the time to like a top 5 team, right?
No, weren't they like they were like the spare parts of every other team, weren't they? Other than Nico. Nico was like the only guy that was. Oh, and he had left Mouse Sports.
Yeah, but
Or
that was
wasn't it-
after Kerrigan already joined though.
Oh, which roster are you talking about?
I was talking about when like the roster just before Kiyoshima joined. I mean, not Kiyoshima,
Oh.
Kerrigan rather.
Roster just before. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard to remember what that roster was, but
Yeah.
I mean, but my point was that Kerrigan's not a big fragger, but he was able to transform that team into something way, way better after he came in.
Zeus.
100%. He definitely made them way better of a team. Thorin had a thing about that, and I said this last time too. Like, I don't really agree with a lot he says, but the odd thing I do, and he did make a good point. They weren't doing well at all before, and then you could see that a good IGL came in and just reconstructed that team and made it a pretty good machine. It just never could fulfill the expectations that everyone gave it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean in school, like, we learned about building teams and proper leadership skills and stuff like that. And I mean, it's kind of, they actually had an example about that as like having the absolute best people working in a team together, and it was like a kind of a shown study that like it doesn't always work because there's so many factors that could block that. And I thought FaZe was kind of one of those instances where you have all these amazing players, but just because you have these like fantastic players on paper does not mean it's going to work as a team. So I mean, and I think it proved itself kind of in that way. But I mean, they were still a top 5 team in the world. Right now they're ranked 6th. Okay, so they're top 10. But I guess for the amount of money, they didn't really fulfill the expectations.
Yeah.
I guess-
Hold on.
But
Go
right
ahead.
now it's all just bust. It's all just bust though. That's expectation is, oh, did you not win a major? Oh, okay, then it didn't work out. Even though you're like amazing, and it's like just this one freak team is annihilating everyone. Like Astralis is just beating everyone. That's it.
I was about to ask, what were those factors? Like, what are some examples of those factors? Either what you learned in school or like how it could be applied in CS here. Like the factors why putting the best people together won't work.
I don't, honestly, I don't quite remember the actual things, but it had a lot to do with like ego and mindset and kind of already that like the change in a way. Like I think that's kind of a big thing. Like change is, I think, always a hot topic in pretty much any aspect of life.
Mhm.
People aren't always receptive to change, and I think like these guys kind of know their bread and butter, what makes them really good. So I mean, I think Kerrigan did quite a bit of work to make them better, but I mean, I don't think they fully changed in the sense that they never were like the best team that they were expected to be. I think when you have like the best people all conjoined in one team, there can just be clashes in so many different ways, whether it's personality, emotional, or intellectually and stuff, right? Like it's just people almost like test it and stuff like that, and respect, and I think there's so many variables to it. So I mean, obviously with these guys I don't know the instance, but I mean near the end you could see like Nico's calling over Kerrigan. It's like, well, what is going on? So I thought they lost respect for him.
Oh.
So like when I see
Isn't that what happened last time to Kerrigan's team? Like, isn't that how he got before he joined FaZe? Wasn't that the issue?
well
Was that he was getting like losing respect?
Yeah,
Well, that
like
was
they stopped having faith in him basically.
that was the Astralis thing.
Yeah.
But I think in my opinion, but I mean, obviously behind closed doors and other factors are different. But from what I saw in Astralis, it's like they literally tried everything they could to make it work. Like they didn't just go, okay, he's sitting, like he's benched now. Like I'm not saying FaZe necessarily did that, but I mean, for as long as that team lasted, like it's not that long. Like Kerrigan was with Astralis for a really, really long time, and they were a decent team. Like they always came like top six at every event. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't want to be really wrong, but and then you could see like they started kind of crumbling, and they had that that what's the word I'm looking for? Like the thing where people they couldn't pass like fourth place. They could never make past semis or whatever.
Yeah.
They had that issue. But then they tried different things, like they were trying to have like debris cull, and they were just trying to make it work. But I think with FaZe it was a little bit different because everyone knew Kerrigan's role in that team, and like as soon as that was taken away from him, I just was like, he's out, like 100%. Like if they're gonna pick up a beast player, they're gonna change him. He's the first one to go, I think personally. But
Yeah. I think the one thing though I will say about the thing is about like having the best players, but I think the difference is like what if you had the best players at their roles? Like a lot of people say that about Astralis right now. Like they're the best players at their roles. Like you may not consider all of them to be like the best player in the world, but they're the best at their roles. A lot of people say that Device is in the conversation for the best opera in the world, right? Not necessarily. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think his performance is a lot of a product from his team, but in either case, people do say that. Some people say, or people do say that Dupree's is one of the best entries in the world. Zipnix is one of the best like clutchers slash support players in the world. Glaive is one of the best in-game leaders in the world, and like Magisk is like one of the best anchors in the world. So, although nobody says that, all five of their players are like the best player in the world, they're like one of the best, if not the best, at the role that they have on their team.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
So I think it definitely does a lot. It does matter a lot, like what they're the best at. Because if you look at like FaZe or any other team where even MIBR kind of to an extent where you put together all the people who were the stars of their own teams, and then you try to put them together to play in a play together in a team, but then like they're not using the same roles that they had. Like you can't have five superstar players on one team because teams just don't succeed that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think like classifications is huge. Like I think there's certain roles and stuff in CS that work. So I mean, like I said, I thought when Kerrigan or Nico called over Kerrigan, I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
They're in desperation mode, and like you knew they were like, they just lost not faith in them, but they definitely were like, okay, we got to change it up.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Well, I mean that also is kind of same thing with like Existence. I don't know if you guys have followed it, but Existence, he got dropped, and a lot of people were actually saying that like he shouldn't have been dropped. Like they should have just kept him if they could, and just get rid of Body and Smits when they got rid of Smits, but they got rid of Existence as well. I think the story was that like Existence could stay if he would let Shocks call, but then he didn't agree with that, so hence why he was just like, what, just kick me then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Shocks I think is like a little bit of a detriment, and there's like a little too much value on him as far as like his play and what he brings. Like is like an insane player, but yeah, I think like the product is of what you're just saying right now. Like he is like the epitome of like what you probably don't want, like a bad combination. Like, oh, I'm the best player, and I think this is the best plan or idea moving forward, and then it just like ruins a team. Like, when was the last time he was on a good team? Anyone know?
When he won the major with, what was it, LDLC at the time, or Envious, or whatever team it was. Right?
Yeah.
But that was like a very long time ago at this point. It's like 4 years ago.
Yeah, and that's like that ego. Like you know how the best player in each role, he's like, yeah, he's probably like the worst case scenario, where like, yeah, he's an amazing fragger, but according to like if you profile him in that like Astralis way, you know how you like mentioned like
Yeah,
all those good players, if you put him in the category, he's probably like bottom of the barrel.
yeah,
Like, yeah, okay, he has the skill, but he brings so many other issues to the team
yeah.
that he's like trying to like control the team. And like it'd be different if he was actually getting something out of it, but he hasn't done anything. And then so he just keeps the roster changing. Oh no, no, no. It must be this player. Oh no, it must be that player. And then he hasn't done anything. It's actually pretty disappointing now that we're talking about it.
Yeah, I don't really like, and this is no disrespect, but I don't really like the French scene that much. I think it's just like a circle of like, who do I like right now? We're gonna put him on my team. Things go sour. We're gonna cut the newest person and just kind of recycle the same people.
Well,
In my opinion.
I mean, there's slight change, right? With after G2 got rid of Smiths and existence, they picked up those new players. I think it was what was their name, Jackson, Lucky, right? So there is some new talent coming into the French scene. I think the French scene has realized that at this point that they can't just keep recycling the same, 12 or so people. But I don't know, lads, like, cause then this this kind of reminds me of something. But like, if you're thinking about the Northwest LAN scene, isn't this the same thing where the same 15 people just shuffle onto different teams all the time?
Yeah, I think in some degree, yeah, for sure.
It's different though. There's a different reason for it, but it is very similar in some sense.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like I think it was similar. It's similar in its own way, but I think like for when I was playing on teams, we were purposely like if we were going to make a change, it would have to be somebody that we thought was like a substantial upgrade. So for instance, and I know this is already going to be a negative thing, that like when we picked you up, like Danny, like we was a substantial pickup to what we had. I mean, I stopped playing, but I mean, it was a really good pickup for what we wanted and what we felt like we were missing in our team. So like, yes, in that way we recycled, or not recycled, but we were using a Northwest player. But I guess I think most teams kind of thought it was for the better, like to make them better. But I think some teams did it because the French thing, like they just were like, oh no, this person sucks right now. Let's use this person instead. But I see what you mean. Yeah, I guess it's just you're like in the inner circles and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think, but yeah, they're there for different reasons though, because at lands there's many cases where somebody can't make it, somebody doesn't want to play at this time, somebody there's like tons and tons of reasons. Like it could even be like some people like these two people are currently on an ESCA team together, so therefore they have to be together type of thing, right? Like that kind of thing happens all the time, and but at the same time it's kind of cool to see certain cores continue to go to these lands. Like if you remember like those Dream Reel guys, like that core of those
Oh
people,
yeah.
they always went to all the Vancouver lands.
Yeah, they're the MVP.
Yeah.
Actually, like, yeah, made me really happy. Whenever I saw them, I knew it was gonna like real. Like we're getting serious at this land, just because you knew they like tried and they were like an actual team and they were dedicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't been around in a while, at least over a year at this point. Haven't seen them at a land, but yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know if you guys have run into this either on your teams at any point, but like, has there ever been a time where you guys have like actually disbanded your core? Because a lot of teams will basically run on like 2 or 3 people, where they'll always continue to stick together, kind of thing. But has there been an instance for a team where you're just like, no, we're just like this is it, like this team, we're just gonna destroy the whole thing, basically?
Yes, once with Tux. You remember what the who was on the roster? To be honest with you, I just
Was it me?
blew the roster.
Yeah, I think so. But you were already like done. You were like, well, I don't really play anymore. Like, yeah, do whatever you want. I think this was some other guys. I don't even remember, but we tried like recreating the same team that we had, like Mankster and them. Like after the fact, we were like, okay, let's just try to rebuild that team again. So we tried doing that, and we started winning games, and we didn't have too much success in the playoffs, but yeah, tried.
Yes, I've done it before. We're like a full rebuild.
So what happened exactly? What were the reasons why you decided to, or your team basically decided to do that?
Um, if my memory's right, I think we just like I think certain players just wanted to play with new teams, and there was like back then like they had decent offers. Like I don't want to say like offers, but they just opportunities to play with like some better people, and they felt like they wanted to do it, and then we just kind of felt like, okay, well, this is kind of pointless, and nothing was really happening anyways, so we just were like, okay, well, let's just cut it. And I think that's when I remade a team with Reese. Reese and I remade a full Source roster online. Like when I first played Source, it was pretty awful. But the team was decent. Like we just picked up like online guys, and we tried to look for North American players that we thought were okay, but totally different people we've never played with before. And Matt and I stayed together because like we had that chemistry of still playing, and we played on multiple teams together, et cetera, et cetera. So it was good. I mean, it's a good experience just to kind of get your expand your horizons, right, with players and out of your norm, I guess, right.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah,
I've also,
go ahead.
I was gonna say also, I mean, I know I left once in a 1.6 team to play with, um, like I thought better players, so I played with them for a full season. And these were all new people that I never played with, and it was really nice to just like learn from them and kind of be the amateur, like the lesser player on the team, but in the way of like I could learn a lot from them too. So that was interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, for
Actually,
sure.
one thing I've thought about doing is like uh, going off and joining a team that I don't know anyone. So like go from the bottom and like try out and try to join the team.
Yeah, I don't
Thought
think I've
about
ever
doing
done that
that.
either.
Like make new friends,
Make
you
new
know?
friends.
Not friends that are like not playing the game or like can't show up to shit. You know what I mean?
Um, Danny, you got another hot topic? I mean, we think we kind of talked a lot about like teams and transfers quite a bit.
No, do you have one?
I was gonna. It's kind of a random topic, but I was kind of since we've been talking a lot about like history and stuff, and I think Danny will probably know a lot about this. I'm talking maps. So something that's been kind of grinding my gears a lot is like why is like Ruska not a map? Why is Tuscan not a map? What limits?
Where's CPL Mill? I want to know
Well,
where
that's
CPL
yeah.
That's
Mill.
that's Tuscan basically, right?
I
Same
don't.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
it was
better
like
version of Tuscan. I don't know why they made Tuscan that way. Like, okay, so I get that they had to change it up because that was a CPL map. I don't understand why they had to add so many like just bumps on the ground. Like, it's probably the most infuriating maps ever. Anyways, I have to just vent that.
I actually liked playing Tuscan a bit more than CPL Mill though.
What did you like about it? Tell
I
me.
like the fact that we're talking at least talking about
Bumps?
the source version, right? I like the fact that they actually had banana on B as opposed to the super long sewer thing. Like I found that really
Oh,
annoying.
yeah, sure, sure. Like that stuff, yeah, better. The bumps, I just couldn't handle it. Like I mentally couldn't handle it because I had bad FPS, so I had to always like be at level, so I couldn't move my mouse like up and down too well. And it's just like, why? Like I never understood why they did that. Like the layout of it was fine, but the terrain choice was horrific. But
Hmm.
yeah, why is it not in the game right now? I'd love to play Mill
What
and
map?
Ruska.
Okay, then in that case, what map from one of those like older type of maps would you take to replace a current map in the pool right now?
I would say Miller Tuscan for like Cobble.
Well, Cobble's
Or
on
wait,
the pool right
call.
now.
Okay, I know you called me on this a while ago too. As soon as I said it, I'm like, this is wrong. As soon as I said it, I'm like, this is wrong. Current map pool, I would say. To be honest, like I'm kind of over. I'm kind of over like Mirage. I don't know. I'm
'Cause
so
that's
over
the
it.
new Dust 2. How could you say that, man?
I don't know. I think they need to
Literally
add
the
more
new-
maps because I mean, really, there's not that many, and I think adding more is better because there's more variety too. I
Hmm.
just
How
I
many
don't know if
maps
I
would you
do.
say though? How many
well,
more
how many
maps?
are right now?
7.
Why wouldn't you have an even number? Have 8, have 9, or do well?
Maybe I
It should
Not
be an
9.
odd
Nine's
number.
odd.
It should be
Yeah.
an
Okay, so
odd
do
number
9.
though.
So do 9. So you do
Ladies
2
and
new maps.
gentlemen, Laz, the land player.
What, dude? Do you guys not agree? Like, do you not think having 2 more maps would be like a nice mixture in the game? Because
I
no
don't.
matter what, you're gonna ban certain maps anyways. So like,
Yeah, but that's exactly the reason why I don't necessarily agree that much with just adding more maps because people will just ban those anyways too. The similar problem exists in Heroes of the Storm. Don't exactly ask me how I know this, but I was talking to one of the UBC esports people who ran the Heroes of the Storm team, and I asked him about like the maps and stuff like that. He said there are like 11 maps, and I was like, do people actually play all those maps? He's like, no, only like people only play like 3 or 4 of them. So that's why I don't necessarily agree with the idea of just strictly adding in new maps. I'm more in favor of replacing. That way, you're kind of forcing people to, they're either gonna play the hell out of Cash or whatever, or any other map, but then eventually they'll have to transition. Kind of just like how when Dust 2 first came out, like nobody wanted to play it, but eventually it became more popular. Like I'm saying the new Dust 2.
okay, I agree. Okay, okay, I'll agree with that. So if
Can I
I'm
make
looking
a
at the
wild
map,
statement? Can I make a wild statement right now?
do
Just
it.
before
Yeah.
we get off the topic about like the maps.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be good if they went down to 5 maps, and the final of the major went down to a BO5, one of every map, like a match for every map?
It's an interesting thought, just because like people can't hide behind their vetoes anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you can't be like you're literally just gonna be, oh, this is the best team, and you're yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
just
okay, if
food for thought.
if that happened, what are the 2 maps you would remove from the pool right now?
I couldn't tell you.
What, you're gonna cut 2 maps?
It was a half thought.
Well, it was
Because
just-
then the pool gets more concentrated. People are more focused. It doesn't turn into this thing. It's like, well, how many maps are you learning? It's like, well, shit, I gotta learn like 7 maps and all this other crap.
Actually, I mean, it's not a bad idea, considering if you look at all the top teams, a lot of them say like there's a lot of top teams out there that only are really good at like 3 or 4 maps, right?
Yeah.
And then basically, whenever they play a best of 3 against a team that's had a lot more time together, it's like the map that's not their pick essentially. They just end up getting destroyed on it. So that's why it's like with 5 maps, it's actually not a bad idea because then basically the idea is that you'd be getting more quality Counter Strike out of all the teams because their focus isn't spread so thin anymore. So not a bad
I'm
idea.
available for work, Valve, if you're interested in hiring. I'm here. I'm ready. $1 million ideas.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, but you guys still didn't answer the question though earlier about if you were to take one of those old maps, which one would you replace? I know Laz said Mirage, but
I think Mirage is really good. I think it adds a lot of like really nice gameplay. Like it seems like the matches are really close, and the map is somewhat balanced as far as I can remember. Okay, you go, Dan. You go.
I'd actually I actually agree with Laz here. I actually would like to see Mirage go at this point. And what map would I bring back? Oh, do you remember Contra? I would bring Contra back.
Your Contra is a classic.
Yeah, I'd bring Contra back instead of
That's
Mirage.
a good map. That is a really good map. Wow. That's a Actually,
Just
honestly, I would take out a couple maps. Like I would put Contra and Tuscan without the bumps. Tuscan without the bumps. So basically, Mill with the Tuscan layout, and Contra for okay for Dust 2. I would remove Dust 2, and I would remove Inferno. I'd remove those two maps.
Why? Why exactly? Why Dustin
Okay.
and Inferno?
So okay, Inferno. I like the idea that I find, anyways, when the map is a certain layout, it's like it's more intense. Okay, so I find that like Dust 2's layout wouldn't be like. I guess what I'm saying is that like okay, so you have Dust 2 and Mirage. Those two are similar maps as far as layout and stuff goes.
Hmm.
Okay, there's like a middle. You have to cross basically the entire map to get to the other side. Um, Nuke, it's more sneaky and ninja. Like you can go hide in places. There's more like intensity when like a play gets executed. There's like a CT hiding somewhere, or like it's unpredictable. And I think that unpredictable play, like Contra, adds a lot of unpredictable play, right?
Hmm.
Because the just the way the map is and like the sewers
Yep.
connecting to each site, there's just a lot of sneaky stuff you can do that can add so much to a viewer like watching. Whereas I think like Dust 2 is very like straightforward. It's just like, oh, okay, you have these entry points and then that's it, and you just come through. um Train, also kind of similar, in that like it's like you're holding down the sights. I guess it's just maybe the flow
Hmm.
of the map. Like Inferno, same way. Like I would say that the layouts of the maps, Inferno, Train, Dust 2, um, and Cache are very similar in the layouts and the structure that you play the maps. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I see where you're going with it. Yeah.
Whereas Nuke, Contra, CPL, and even Overpass I feel like is like somewhat balanced, because you do have like the A or the B control, like you're trying to hold off in B, and then in A it's more open and you can kind of sneak in, and same with going to water. But yeah, maybe just like the style of play, and like I think it's like having those sewers and that alternate route, you can do more sneaky plays. Like even from a CT standpoint, with the map being that way, like if someone goes like on mill, somebody goes and pushes banana, and like they're everyone's on one side of the map.
Hmm.
Like I don't know. I think it adds exciting gameplay.
Okay. So basically, you're. But would you not argue that Tuscan and Inferno can be somewhat similar in some ways too?
Tuscan and
Yeah, CPL Mill and Inferno.
no, because you don't have that sewer. The sewer that goes to A and B. You have that like other like sketchy kind of way of getting up, and the map is really open. That's the other thing.
Wait,
You
hold on, hold
can't
on. Are we
turn.
talking
You
about
can't steal.
Mill? Like when you say Mill, are you talking about you go up through the sewers, or do you go through the door at A? Because they're
Oh
very
right,
different.
right,
They're
right.
very
Sorry.
different.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. So, well, it doesn't matter. Both of them, both ways. So you could go to the sewer or Tuscan door, whatever. It doesn't matter. But it adds some variety. So there's like the middle. I think one big thing too is it cuts out. I don't like set nades. I think set nades are kind of ruining the game a little bit. Um, so yeah, like and because Mill and Tuscan are both so covered, but I feel like the sneaky style of like a lot of ways to attack. Like back then, I think people were like playing a very primitive style. Like looking back when I was playing, I think Mill now or Tuscan would be played completely differently.
That's true. Yeah.
It would be way more tactical. I think mid would get way more abused nowadays than back then.
Hmm.
Yeah,
No, I agree with that too. I agree with that too.
yeah. But I think they would need to balance the map. I think it's very T-sided. Tuscan. Like they would have to fix that map and make it more.
Yeah, that's true. Just because there's actually still two pathways to B, and then A is like basically three, if you count middle, door, and kitty. Is that what you called it, right? A ramp.
Yeah, kitty. Yeah, because they had the
Yeah.
kitty. Yeah, and also incineraries, kind of like slow down the game a bit too. Like that's the other thing too. Like there's no set nades you can do, um, as a in on a mill or a Tuscan.
Yeah,
Like
because
it's
everything's
actually kind
closed
of
off,
nice.
right?
Yeah, and I think I don't know. What's your guys' opinion now? I know it's been in the game for so long, but looking back, like, are set nades a good thing? I don't know.
Last.
I don't know.
Oh,
I
I
guess
think you're
that's
gonna.
completely off topic from map discussion, but just like thinking about it now, I'm just kind of like set and eight kind of ruin everything.
Why do
Thinking
you
about
why do you think that? Why do you think set nades ruin everything?
I played Call of Duty, and one thing I noticed in Call of Duty was like set nades, right? That was like I I think the first s- like pro FPS game that used set nades. Um, and from what I can remember, it really felt like it like hampered um, the flow of the game. Like it slowed it down. You'd like you'd so basically in Call of Duty, you'd go out, you'd spam and like do some peeks and stuff, make sure no pushes. This is as the planter, right? So as the T,
Hmm.
you'd go make sure like nobody's planning and all this other stuff, and then you'd basically fall back and get into set nade position, throw the set nades to clear some spots, and then push. Like push whatever. Now, mind you, those were grenades. They were smokes, but people didn't really do. Um, the smokes were more for like cross. Anyways, so and it slowed down the gameplay. That like flow of you going and like one player just like getting in there and like just start annihilating people. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like Counter Strike right now is kind of stepped away from that like Neo or Markolov style of like, damn, like I just want to see this guy tear the other team apart.
Hmm. When you talk about set nades, though, like what concept of it are you talking about? Are you talking about the fact that people can line up things and
The
throw
delay,
grenades,
like
or the fact that people have strats where there's just a bunch of set nades, or like which component are you talking about?
the component of like the delay it brings into the game. There's a
So
lot of
so
like empty time
okay, so you're saying like
because of
smokes and molotovs, like basically just warding off terrorists and CTs in some aspects from doing anything.
yeah. Yeah, you could also argue, I guess, incendiary grenades also fall into that same category. That like incendiary grenade
Hmm.
are a little like it kind of I guess what I'm expect like I look at I think a game like basketball, okay? It's gonna seem really odd, but basketball is used to be kind of like Counter Strike, okay? In that you could there's like one guy a lot of the time, like one guy can take over a game and dominate, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know.
So you're saying that CS you can't do that as easily now? Is that
Yeah,
is
I
that the
think
point you're
it's
trying to make?
yeah. Like right now, like you have to smoke everything off and then go in. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking crazy because I'm tired.
I mean, if you're strictly talking about the component of delaying, I mean, an easy fix for that is to just reduce the timers on it, right? Imagine if
Yeah,
Molotovs were only like 3 seconds and smokes were only like 12, like 10 seconds, so basically half of what they are now, right?
yeah,
That would solve your delay situation. But um, in terms of like people throwing smokes and stuff like that to enter sites, like that's to me that's not always the best way to enter a site all the time. Just because like if you think about from the CT point of view, what if they just saved all their nades and just dumped them on you when you did your execute? Like I'm sure we've all played against those teams at LAN that have a bunch of kids on it and they're like so stratted up, but like it doesn't even matter because your counter grenades are just so good and you just out aim all of them anyways. So Like that's kind of how I see it. Like it's not that component of like people entering sites that way isn't always the best way.
Actually, you make a good point, and this has I'm going to bring up Dota. I think meta change is super important. And I know Counter Strike's unique in that it has its own meta that evolves. Like, oh, like a systematic team like Navi at the time when they
Mhm.
were like super systematic, like breaking teams down, was really good.
Yeah.
Um, I think what you said, reducing the timer on everything, isn't a bad idea. To
To basically remove that delay or that lull in the
yeah,
action that you're talking about.
yeah, but also to like switch it up a little bit, like maybe like you know, just different teams start doing better, or like people have to adapt strats or hold off stuff. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
don't know.
Yeah, it'd definitely be a lot different.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
just be kind of interesting. Oh, welcome back. Yeah, just I'm toxic. I'm toxic. Yeah, I think it would be kind of interesting to see some different a meta shift.
Well, there's been quite a few meta shifts in CS, right? If you think about like if you look at Astralis right now, they're the prime example of a team that's brought back the usage of heat grenades, right? When CS first came, like when CS:GO first came out, nobody used Molotovs. Everyone just used heat grenades, just because that's what you did in Source in 1.6. And then
Yeah,
eventually teams caught on to using Molotovs, and then nobody used heat grenades anymore. And then now we're
yeah,
back to, or now we're now in a happy medium where teams know how and when to use heat grenades now compared to back then, a couple of years ago, like nobody knew how you should use it.
yeah, yeah. This is true.
But I think also, just when you're talking about that set nades thing, right? I also had this thought, and I know Moses brought it up at one point on his Twitter or something like that. But it was the idea of like slightly dynamic maps where the overall layout is still the same, but like the configurations of like the boxes and stuff like that and the site could be slightly different, right? So you wouldn't have these specific lineups or these specific strats that counter particular areas in the site because you wouldn't be able to do it if it was dynamic. Like if no, not necessarily to the point where it's like every round is different, but just like per game it's different.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know. See, the thing is, I don't think difference every map, because then you're adding too much randomness. Like, oh, if it's this map, we have or this dynamic situation or dynamic map, then it's, oh, this is really good for us. That's why we won. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think it depends on how much it actually changes though. But yeah, it has to be very it has to be very like thought out of how it's dynamic and not just random changes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, you also don't want to have too many meta shifts too. Like I think like the game, the way it's been kind of going has been good, like with the changes, because like if you have too many happening too fast, like it just kind of makes um I don't know, I feel like it wouldn't be the same. Like I feel like it'd be really hard to like watch. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like meta changes are good because like they last for a while and then something new kind of comes in to like make a tweak to how
Yeah.
people play. But I feel like there's so many changes or like little adjustments, it would kind of ruin what the whole point of like CS is. It's about like teamwork and execution and tactics and stuff like that, right? So I think it would just make it really, I don't know, I just make it rough. I wouldn't agree with it personally, but I like the way that they're doing it now. So
Yeah, I agree with that too. Like I think the way is progressing right now is really good. Just just because like when CS:GO first came out, the first couple years or so, their adjustment periods are like they're changing the recoil of the guns and stuff like that, right? Like I'm glad now they don't really touch the guns, just because that changes so much, right? And now it's just
Yeah,
like the only thing they really change is just they play around with the economy, which I actually like the fact that they play around with the economy right now, and also the fact that
Why?
they just change the map pool and stuff like that too. What do you mean why?
Interesting. Why do you like the economy changes?
I don't know. I think it adds an extra layer of what you can do to the game, and I really like what they did with the pistol round thing, where you get 1900 after the first round instead of 14, just because you can opt for a third round bye, which means you just forfeit the second round basically, or you can actually force into the second round and just play it like the old meta, right? So like a lot of the top teams still do this, where they still play by the old meta, just because you can get like more grenades and stuff like that in addition to your CZ. So I think it just opens up more options, and it removes that delay in the half, where it's just guys just running around killing people who don't have guns. So I think it adds
I
more
agree.
excitement.
I think it does too. Like I totally agree with you. Like I know there's a lot of hate about it. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of hate, but I know there was a lot of people that made their opinion about it. But I think it's good. Like it's good to just test it that way. Make more gun rounds, make more use for the other weapons and stuff. Like rather than full pistol save rounds and stuff like that. And I think it just adds more of an element to the game, and especially with how Go is with pistols already, like it's kind of unpredictable as it is. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I like it. I think it adds just more action to it, which I think was necessary. I think it was good. Like I mean, obviously we grew up with the way it was, but it is good to tweak it in its own way.
Mm.
But the thing I wasn't really pumped about, and I think I like it now, but you guys can tell me your opinion. Like in Go, like they changed the reward for the weapon you get kills with, which I think is good. But I also feel like it kind of made it kind of annoying too, because like back in the day, like shotguns were like insane, and you get like what $900 for a kill,
Mhm.
and a CZ you get 100, an op you get 100. Like it's I don't know. Like I think it's good in its own way. I think, but it kind of downplays their impact in the game too. But maybe that's why, because they are such like high-powered weapons in the game. So
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, to that, I'm actually okay with that, just because the CZ can be such a round-changing weapon in those save rounds. Like, it's you have a lot more potential with a CZ to like get quick 2 kills and a gun, and then maybe the round swings in your favor, right? Like that's so common with the CZ. And the same with the op, where it's like if you have an op saved from the previous round, even if your team has all pistols, you still have a really legitimate shot of winning the round. So that's why, in my opinion, I don't necessarily mind the fact that they don't pay out that much for those weapons, just because they're such round changers.
Well, you're the benefit of it is like, oh, okay, they lost money, so now we're on even grounds. Like my $500 took away like $4,000 or $4,500 from them. That's amazing. And yeah, you guys all said it. It's like as a dynamic, but okay. So you guys say yeah, as this dynamic, but does it make the people on gun rounds now play slower, play more
Mm,
passive?
I don't think necessarily. I
no,
think it's just
I don't think so.
happening in the
Oh, okay.
I think the patterns are just different now because, um, like a lot of people just buy SMG. Like with the new economy change now, a lot of people just buy SMGs on the second round now because they're expecting the team to save, right? And if you have SMGs, that's the right play because you want to farm up money and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
it also adds the fact that the other team, because they have more money, if they think you're gonna just buy SMGs, they can actually buy like armor, um, like head armor, nades, and like a CZ or something like that, right? And at that point, they actually have a legitimate shot of winning the round. And even if the T's get the bomb down, you know how normally when the T's get the bomb down the pistol round, they're just gonna save the next round. They save the second round so they can get like the AKs in third round, right? What teams like to do sometimes is after they get the bomb down in the first round, in the second round they actually do like the double AK buy where two guys are basically AK armor and then the other people are just like pistols, like no armor, right? So it's basically just like what's better, a full SMG buy or a buy with like two AKs that happens in the second round? I don't know. They're pretty equal, so that's why I think it's a really good change. Like it adds that layer of extra excitement where you don't really know what can happen.
Yeah, you bring up a good point.
Yeah, and I think the only reason I think I disliked it at first with the money reward thing is because like when I was playing 1.6, um, like I knew the money system. Like I literally knew everything. Like well, I felt like I did. Like meaning like I know like like there's a 90% chance they should be ecoing. They should be doing this. Like you could literally do the math when you're playing. Like oh he got 2 kills, so he's gonna have $600 plus the loss bonus of this, so he's gonna have like $1,900, which they should be saving, or he might dig up. Like
Yeah.
it, and I feel like with Go it's a little bit harder, but like I mean you still can do it, but it's not as easy in my opinion. Whereas in Source and 1.6, it was a little bit more manageable with like economy and stuff like that. So for me, like that was kind of the most annoying thing. But at the same time, it's like if you're playing those like kind of like passive aggressive rounds where you're buying like up close weapons and stuff like that, you have a good shot of getting it if you get a good angle and stuff like that, like shotguns, let's say, right? But um, I don't know. Like I'm kind of indifferent about it. I think I like it now, but there is times where I'm like, ugh, this is broken. Like the XM, like when I get one of those bubbies in my hands, like dude, that's like it's a couple G's in my pocket.
Yeah, if anyone, you should be ecstatic.
It was pretty big play, dude. Number one on ESA, baby. But
There was one thing I want to bring up though while you were saying that. Oh, I forgot it though, but it was something in regards to the money thing. But whatever, it'll come back to me someday. Anyways, I think we're on an hour 20 now, so
Jeez.
I don't know if there's any other topics you guys want to talk about, or if this is it.
I think
I
that
think
was good.
yeah, I think we talked a lot about quite a few things. I think we kind of went on tangents about them, but I think it was good though. Like I mean, we talked about like teamwork, we talked about player transfers, we talked about our personal views on some stuff. I mean, I think we covered a lot of topics that's interesting right now, especially with what's kind of going on in the scene too. But kind of directing it in our own community and our own view too. So I'm good with it.
Yeah, I think we definitely went pretty in depth here, and actually, I didn't say it earlier, but I actually didn't have the audio recording for the first like minute or so, so your intro, Laz, was cut out. Sorry, but that's too bad.
Just kidding. Just kidding. No, it's all good. I can always do another one, but
No, it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay, I don't want to edit this one.
I'm just gonna put it as is, basically, or maybe just cut out a little bit at the beginning, just because you don't really hear anything until like I put it back on. But whatever, it's fine.
It's all good.
well, this was fun, guys. It's always fun to like kind of shoot the shit and talk about some stuff that's going on and what we think. And I think we always have these. The funny thing is for people that like don't even know us too, like we literally just do this on the like all the time. Like we just have these conversations and they just start flying. We just talk about so many things, and like I mean, if people do listen to us, I hope like it is interesting and like we provide some insight or like kind of any questions or anything like that too. Like I like that's kind of the whole point of this is like it's just a casual conversation about things that we feel are important to us or things that are going on and our views. So definitely appreciate anybody listening. And if there's ever any comments, like please throw them in the comment section. We'll look at them for sure.
Do you want to just do a quick outro then, Laz?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. So thanks everybody. If anybody watches us, like this is a new thing for us, so we're kind of learning as we definitely appreciate anybody listening. And if, like I said, if there is any questions or comments or anything that you guys want us to kind of touch on, or what we think about certain things, like hit us up on Twitter. Throw your question or anything like that in the comments section. We'll definitely take a look. And we're going to try to make this a bit more consistent. Like it was just kind of hectic with holidays and all that stuff. So we'll be talking a little bit more about things that are going on and certain particular things that we want to kind of address too. So stay tuned for more.
It was great.
Yeah,
Have a
that's
good
fun.
one.